Welcome to Holy Fuck. Holy Fuck. Holy Fuck. Two gals on the prowl for enlightenment, sex, and all things holy. Holy Fuck. Each week, beauty alchemist and transformational coach and speaker, Katherine McClelland, and spiritual healer and life coach, Krista Kim, discuss navigating spiritual consciousness in a real human body. Stumbling through dating, relationships, and everyday life, all while maintaining a fucking sense of humor.
Hey, Krista.
Hey, Katherine.
What up? Hey, Katherine.
I always like to respond to you with like different voices, as if you're showing up with someone different each time.
Who is the theatrical one here?
I am. I was just laughing. What I was just about to say is that my kids shared this song with, I heard my kids listening to this song and I was just like, oh my God, I love that song so much. And they're like, you can't have it. It's our summer anthem. I'm like, no, it's my Southern, my summer anthem. And it should be my Southern summer anthem. And it just, one of the main lines in it is just fuck the rules. And I was like, yes. And
I need to hear it.
Oh my God. It was reminding me of us. Maybe I will insert part of that, a sample of that song
with
later.
Permission.
Yes.
Later.
Oh yeah. Maybe like one little line of it.
Maybe one note.
One note. Yes. It's called Midsummer Madness.
Oh, it sounds good.
I know it is.
I'm ready.
It has such a hook. And I've just been going around in my car and I'm just like, fuck it.
I could pull it up right now, but I bet we'd get shut down if we were trying to play this show. Okay.
Probably. But yeah,
so
happy July 5th, day after Freedom Day, where we all get back to normal. In Ohio, where we are from, we have a quaint little parade every year that is so sweet. And if you don't go, then you feel bad that you didn't go. But like going sometimes is a chore because you have to get out in the hot sun and see everybody in town all in one place.
So we're just talking about karma for a second. One of the things they say about our small town, we're not actually making this up, just so you guys know. There really is a place named Ohio, and it really is like this. But people come here, and because you cannot get away from anything you ever do here, because everyone knows who you are, it's like little karma. So if you've ever had a bad word with someone or you've ever had a tricky moment, you will see them.
Well, let me just tell you that I must have been on my karma parade yesterday.
Karma parade.
For the first time, I decided not to like set up a chair or blanket and just sit there and watch the parade. I thought, I'm going to walk up and down the parade and just see everybody and see all the floats. And
I love that.
What I didn't really think about ahead of time is that I'm going to see everybody. And what I realized is it was like going back in time of like the last 10 years of my life. Seeing this group of people hanging out and be like, oh, those used to be my friends when my kids were younger, because they were all the parents of the friends. And then there was this next group like, oh, those are the parents who I used to do my naughty adult shows with at my theater. And oh, those are a group of parents from the theater. Or it was just like all the tiny little microcosms that I've been involved with. And had I still been married, I would have probably still been sitting on that blanket, right, doing that. And I could have gotten really bummed out in that moment, but what I noticed is I was literally like dancing down the street. I was like, hey, I see you over there sitting with your kids crying. Hey, like over there with your husband that I know you don't like. And I was just like, I felt like I was doing my freedom walk. Freedom. And I got my cute little body back and I had my Daisy Duke shorts on and I just felt so young and fun and 21. And I had a moment of being really proud of myself for where I've come, because 10 years ago, I just felt like I was down in the dumps watching that parade and the shoot. Totally different story. So yay me.
Yay you. I had a similar feeling when I bumped into you. I chose the same course yesterday and I even got sparkles painted on my face.
Oh my God, you looked so beautiful.
It was so fun. That girl was just on top of her game. And anyway, Krista and I bumped into each other and we took a picture. So at some point, if you check our website, you're going to see a picture of us on the 4th of July rocking it with our 30-year-old chaperone.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was like, but who are we talking about?
We're talking about our 30-year-old chaperone. She was the quieter one of the three of us.
Yes.
And she photobombed us, so you'll see her in our picture. Nonetheless, it was a fun day. It was great to be in Ohio. And you do just get to see everyone. And it's a whole way of being.
And if you notice, I was not with my boyfriend yesterday walking around the parade.
I did notice. It occurred to me to wonder and to wait till today to find out what's going on, Krista.
Wow. Honeymoon bliss. I won't say it's over. But let's just say we are moving into phase 2. And what's interesting about it is I think it's a lot because him and I both do this type of work, the spiritual work. So we're constantly working on ourselves and diving in deep to the relationship. And I think it has really like sped things along at a super quick pace. Right. And we're both very aware of like, try not to rush into the relationship, try to take it slow, try to move this way. And yet when we're moving through so many issues and even fun stuff and clearing things, it like is putting the relationship on hyper speed. And so
you guys are being ascended beings pretty soon.
Well, let's hope. This is the weirdest thing that happened. I don't know. I guess what I want to say is that what the point of what I'm talking about today is perception, and how he and I had an incident happen that's not a big incident, but the fact that we both saw it from a completely different point of view. So he's sitting on his computer and he's working, he's studying for a test that he has to take. And I hear him kind of in there, not cussing at the computer, but like, oh no, crap, and like saying that. So I know something has happened.
Failed.
So I decide, and then he says something like, I missed a deadline on something. So I'm like, okay, this isn't good. So I decide to come dancing into the room, right, to try and cheer him up and hear what happened. And he tells me, I'm like, oh my God, I have the perfect song for you. And of course, it's the one I was just talking about, Fuck the Rules, because, basically he kind of broke the rules on something and missed a deadline. And so I was like, I'm going to play this song. And I was like dancing. I gave him a hug and a kiss. And I didn't feel like he reacted. And he said something like, well, I used to feel that way. And now I'm trying to follow the rules and like get it together. And I'm like, okay, I guess I chose the wrong song to come in dancing to. So I'll just come over here to this side of the room. And I like did a few more moves. And then he was busy on the computer looking at, whatever mistake he'd made. And I was just like, okay, I'll just back it up. Like back to the other room. And I was like, all right, I'll get back to working on the podcast. And I didn't think much about it. But cut to like 8 hours later, a day later, and we were talking about that incident. And it turned out like he was referencing that. And he was like, it was so amazing that you did that. And I was like, huh? And he goes, yeah, it was such like, I loved that when I was having that moment where in the past I would have taken the computer and thrown it on the floor out of like frustration. I love that you came dancing in and made me laugh and you had the perfect song. And he said, it just like snapped me out of where I was and it made me laugh.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but the thing is I was like, wow. We had a completely different experience around that.
Oh, you didn't see him responding that way.
So in his mind, he smiled, he responded to me. I should have known that he enjoyed my dance or my song. And in my mind, I was looking at him and his face was shut down. He wasn't looking at me. I didn't see a smile. I just saw him concentrating on the computer, which I get. He's having a moment. And then he got a little frustrated because he was like, wow, I hurt you in that moment. So here he was having an experience where he totally enjoyed something.
Uh-huh.
And I was hurt by it, meaning I kind of sulked away like, oh, he didn't like my dance and I fucked up or I didn't do it good enough. But in his mind, it was different. And then he felt bad over a great moment for hurting my feelings. And I don't know, it just got all like jumbled. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about today how I'm assuming that happens all the time to people, whether it's in business or friendship, family members, whatever.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So wait, I just have to know. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't with you at the parade because you had a misunderstanding, or he wasn't with you at the parade because of something else?
He wasn't at the parade because he wanted to study for his test and not get caught up in the fanfare and get pulled off track. And he was just like, I gotta put my head down and I gotta do this.
Yeah. No, I get that. I thought you, somehow in the beginning, I thought you were saying like he wasn't with you because it had something to do with this thing, but it didn't really, right?
So let me back up. What it did have to do with is because of that fuck up with the computer and the deadline and everything, he then put his head down on 4th of July. Instead of going and having fun and everything, maybe a little bit of self-punishment on his end. I'm not sure. Meaning like he felt he was disappointed in himself, so he's going to really just go the extra mile on that day. So, which is all good. He was making a self-honoring choice for his program. It's something that's important.
So back to what you were really brought to this today about how two people can have such different perceptions about the very same thing. It happens every single day, I'm sure, all over the place in everything, as you were just saying, work, life, kids, everything. And just what was it that you took from this specific experience that was so impactful for you?
Well, I think I realized that in my mind, I would have sworn 100% that I was right, that the way I viewed it was right. And then I was like, wow, I know that he would probably swear the same thing. And so in that, having to come to terms with, we are living kind of alternate realities. I don't know if that's the right term or not.
Each of you are.
We are each having a completely different experience, even though we're in the same room with each other, interacting with each other. And so I think my realization in that is I can't be responsible, or it doesn't even matter what happened. The fact is we had a different experience. So if I get caught up in the, well, no, it happened this way, and he's going, no, it happened this way, then we're missing the point.
Right.
The point is, why did I have to experience it that way? What was my soul trying to understand and heal? And why did he have to experience it that way? And we have two completely different lessons we're trying to learn because we're two different people. So then it makes sense why we would experience it different, because we are triggering each other's shit at this moment.
Yeah, and when we go back to using the big psychological word for this called projection, right? Mm-hmm. It's work that a lot of spiritual teachers do with their people. And Byron Katie she calls it the turnaround, when you say, you're not being nice to me. And then I have to go back to, I'm not being nice to me.
Right.
Which is the fun part. And that's a little harder for our egos to play with. So what was yours this time? What was this about for you?
Well, I think initially it was, I don't know if it was that I'm not smart enough, meaning like I didn't pick a good enough song.
Well, there can be layers, you know. It can be like a little bit of judgment on, that's not right. We get big judgment on.
Yeah, I think then just feeling just embarrassed that maybe I had chosen the wrong opportunity to try to make him laugh. Yeah, an inappropriate time. He's having
some shame, maybe?
Some shame about who am I to interrupt his process and come in and make light of it. And then just feeling really exposed, because it's not really like me. I mean, I'm getting better at it, but it's not really like me to like dance around and be silly. And that is a side I'm opening up to. So there's a little bit of like, oh, I tested the waters with it, and then kind of felt like embarrassed by it.
So then there's that level. Mm-hmm. So all of your self-judgment was, I did something wrong. I feel ashamed. I exposed myself. I was dancing around like, shaking my booty around him, feeling really good. And I got nothing. And so in my mind, I got nothing. So I made it mean all these things. And then I went back to the other room, kind of like tail between my legs, working on this process. And then you found out that he got a ton out of it.
Oh, yeah, because then he actually came in about maybe 20 minutes later, and I was working, and he came in and laid down beside me and was just like laughing and giggling, and just, I don't even know if he was that happy, but in his mind, he says he was really happy in that moment. But in my mind, he was just laying there telling me a story. Mm. And so again, it was like two different experiences, because he thought he was coming in a new way, explaining to me that his old self would have reacted in this crazy way, but he just had like such a great moment with me, and he was so appreciative. And I don't know, it was just so interesting what the ego does.
So in your mind, your process was about, how do you stay with yourself when you feel ashamed, or when you feel like someone isn't responding to what you're doing, like the self-judgments that come up. How do you stay with yourself and not let those take you down into, I mean, it sounds like you did a pretty good job staying with yourself. You were back at work. It wasn't like you were crying in the other room. You guys didn't have a big fight over it. But nonetheless, you could feel a loss of energy around that. You could feel the shame coming up because you made up a story that you had done the wrong thing, that he didn't like what you had done, and you were a little tail between your legs, kind of.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly the term I used to him. I was like, I just had my tail between my legs coming out. And so when I walked out of the room with my tail between my leg, what I realized is that I was like looking to him for validation.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because if I wasn't seeking validation, I would have just gone in, danced around. I wouldn't have given a shit whether he paid attention or not. I would have just had fun in my own little world, and I would have bounced out and gone back to what I was doing. That's not what I did. I went in there, did all that, and was like, oh, he's not looking. Wait, he's not paying attention. Look at me. Look at me. Oh, you're not looking at me. Oh, I must not be very good. I must not be funny. I must look like a big fat piece of shit. Okay, well, I'll just go back into my bedroom. Like,
that's amazing how fast you went to the big fat piece of you know what I don't love to say. So anyway, what I was really noticing was Krista's comment about self-approval and the difference between doing something that's super authentic. It's so funny because I'm sure all of you can relate to what I'm saying. It's like we get this great idea and it's coming from who we are. And we're like, we have this fun idea and we start to do it. And then we decide, we better check for approval. And of course, this is like our amygdala, our adrenaline system going, am I going to die? Am I going to die? Am I going to die? Mm-hmm. So instead of going full force into this piece that we think we're going to do where Krista comes in and is like, fuck the rules, check my new summer anthem out. She gets this not much of a response from her boyfriend.
In my opinion. Remember.
In her opinion, right. Yeah. What she saw was not much response.
Right.
That's what she saw. And then puts her tail between her legs. She said leg before. I'm just checking with that. Put her tail between her legs and kind of goes out of the room and has this weird letdown kind of feeling of
just mostly shame.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. What would we do if we didn't need approval? What are we capable of? I heard this great question that's related to this so long ago. I can possibly tell you where it came from. But the question was, what are we capable of if we don't care who gets the credit? And in some ways, this is sort of the reverse. What are we capable of if we don't mind being blamed for being silly or right. crazy or something? It's like, what are we capable of if we don't care about the approval of others? Not from a place of we don't care about them, we don't have any empathy, but that we are authentically expressing the freedom that we are. And that was what I was hearing about your 4th of July, was walking along, seeing. It was almost like you were watching a movie of your past life.
Oh, yes, for sure. And as the movie continued throughout the day, it got even weirder and weirder. Like, okay. I don't even know if I want to bring this up or not, but I'm going for it.
But go for it.
I know. Okay. The day continued, and I'm on my freedom party. He's supposed to meet me at the party last night that I was at because he'd stayed home studying all day. And I was so proud of him for sticking with what he needed to do and honoring his needs. And when he showed up, I could tell immediately that energetically he was not himself. And I don't blame him, right? Everybody else is at parades and they're partying and they're having fun all day. And he's been at home studying and meditating and clearing his shit and really preparing himself to go do this course that's really important to him.
Yeah.
But in that, what I noticed is that he showed up at the party, and again, we have a completely separate idea of what happened.
Wow.
So he shows up. I'm like, oh my gosh, hi. I stand up. I give him a hug. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. By the time I get back, he's found some kickboxing bag, and he's like having fun, reliving his old days of kickboxing. And then when he's done with that, he goes and jumps and swims laps in the pool. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's just working out the day, right? The stress of the day and trying to get into it. And then he goes and sits and talks with this older woman for a while. And then he's like, are you coming? And I'm like, coming where? And he just started walking, and he like disappeared with these people, and I could not find him. And so I'm like, what is happening? And it was like 45 minutes of like having no idea of where he went, right?
Wow.
And when he comes back, he's like, why didn't you come? And I'm like, what do you mean, why didn't I come? I didn't come. I was like following. Anyways, again, dun, 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 dun. So much difference in perception. And then this morning I get a text, and it sounds like a breakup text. Okay. And it's lots of apologies, lots of like, that was me, I'm so sorry, da, 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 da. But the way in which it was languaged, and granted, there's a language barrier between the two of us.
That's
so
true.
I get that. So probably not the best in text. I had to write back like, is this a breakup text? And I was like, wow, how quickly did
talk about perception.
Yes. So I'm a little bit in shock today. He finally responded with, no, that was just what I've been thinking about. But I'm like, okay. But again, it's the whole perception of like, he's writing a text thinking I'm assuming, we haven't even had a chance to talk about it yet, but I'm assuming he's realized some of the things that happened yesterday and where his mind was. And in my mind, it was like, oh, he's breaking up.
Wow. What if you had just gone crazy and run with that? Like not asked him?
Yeah. The old me would have done that. My old me would have probably driven over to his house and like said, fuck you, and packed up my drawer that I have in his house.
my one toothbrush and my 2 pairs of underwear.
I'd have driven off in my minivan again.
I was singing my song. Fuck the rules. We just want to see how many times we could say fuck the rules in one show today, so we're working on that today.
But so it's been a wild 24 hours,
great.
and I've had to sit in this stillness and this uncomfortableness, and also going like, whoa, him and I are both, I think, fairly conscious people. And we work
until we're not.
But we work every single day on meditating, working with our clients, working with our friends, asking our friends' opinions, freeform writing, journaling, burning incense.
Bedtime intentions.
Daytime
intentions. Affirmations.
Yeah, so it's
Anything
not
else?
like we're oblivious. And even though we're not oblivious, when someone's stuff gets triggered, it's on. I don't know where I'm going with this because I'm still very much in the moment, but I just felt like I wanted to bring it up just to be like, it's just another chapter.
Yeah, it's a great topic, Krista, because every single person who's ever had a relationship, and that includes like with your parents, your dog, whatever, the more we're aware that it's us that's reacting, it's us that's filtering, it's us that has a story. I even had a thing going on yesterday that was somewhat similar in that I've reached out to somebody a couple times who I thought I had an agreement with that he was going to be more responsive. Mm-hmm. And nothing, like chirp, 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 like nothing. And I know the messages have gone through. Mm-hmm. And so I got a little huffy last night. I wrote this long, luckily not sent.
I accidentally sent mine last night.
Yeah, I didn't send mine, but luckily one of my friends said, why don't you wait till tomorrow morning to send that? This morning when I read it, I could see that it was from a place where I just got my feelings hurt.
Yes.
And I was assuming... Oh, he doesn't care very much about me. And, I pulled up that book. Remember the book, He's Not That Into You? He's Just Not That Into You? And the horrible movie they made. Forget the movie, never watch it. But the book was great. And this guy's whole point was, if he's not really giving you much attention, he might not really be that interested. You might want to really check it out. And I went totally down that road. I'm like, look, and here, this example, and this example, and this example. And my friend's like... And we're taking a deep breath. She is also one of us questioners and seekers and wonderful people like that. So I was really grateful for the advice because by this morning, I could see that it was this hurt one inside me who was making up a story with no information. I don't even know where he's in the world right now.
Right.
He's definitely in a different country. And the fact that it's the 4th of July and I'm like, yeah, party, call me, wah, wah. And he doesn't respond, he's at work in the real world.
Yes.
So even though I had that filtered, I didn't have that filtered. And I know it's so embarrassing. When I talk about this stuff, sometimes I feel like I'm 10 years old. And the truth is, I probably am.
But that's the part that needs the healing.
Right.
We know it's not ourself right now. Right. It's needing the healing. It's the little girl who got hurt. It's the one where the story started. Mine's definitely that abandonment thing. He wasn't with me all day on this holiday. He's not even American. Right. He doesn't even know what 4th of July is practically.
And he might not be that proud of us for being American right now.
Exactly. And he certainly doesn't know probably that on 4th of July, everybody just wants to snuggle up with their lover and watch the fireworks. Like that's not even in his awareness, and especially with the day he's had. But in my little girl mind, it's like, it's 4th of July and I'm by myself and I'm at the party all day long. And yes, I'm having having fun, but I want you here. And, there's just that dialogue. And then when he finally gets there, to not swoop me up and hug me and like drop in with me for a few minutes, that hurt. It hurt so much because I also knew that everybody knew that I was waiting for him to get there. Mm-hmm. And everybody watched him show up, not really in his typical lively self. And they watched him hit the bag and swim the laps and tuck and then disappear. So it was like, I was like feeling a lot of shame around it. Had he dropped in for 5 minutes with me and then gone and done all that stuff, no big deal.
Yeah, but you'd have no karma to work with today, honey. And
exactly. And
this universe is just setting you up beautifully to get that work. First, I thought it was abandonment with me. And I think for me, it was like this fear of a betrayal. Like, if I don't keep poking you to see if you're really there, even if you already told me you're there, then I'm suddenly going to get taken by surprise with some kind of betrayal.
Yeah.
So poke.
I think there was definitely a little bit of that right there. Because when you disappear for 45 minutes, I'm like, all right, where the fuck is he? What bedroom's he in? My mind went away. And I kept saying, like, that's not, like, come on, Krista, like, get a grip. But there's that, when we get hurt like that, it's like goes to the worst case scenario.
Well, now we know we've had some really big worst case scenarios in both our lives. So, yeah.
And the funniest part is finally when I did see him, I see him in the house through the bedroom windows, and he looks like he's doing a session with somebody. And I'm like, oh my God, here in my mind, who knows what he was doing? Right. And then I see that he's like working with someone. I'm like, whatever.
Of course.
But again, I want to reiterate this because what he did at the party, completely fine. It's about how I took it. And because I'm this hurt little girl inside, I had all this expectation of what it was going to be like when he shows up. I have no idea what his story is going to be, but I assume it's going to be a little bit of something like, hey, I've been working my ass off all day, studying and reading and doing all this stuff. And I got there and I just wanted to like take a moment and relax.
Absolutely.
Before dropping in and everything.
And, anything, whatever his story is, I was even just making up that he was there for you. Because he really didn't really want to be there. But the only way he could be there for you was to not be with you because he wasn't really present. Because we can make up anything about what we would think. And until we ask the other person, we have no business.
Exactly.
We have no business in there. And really find out, like, wow, it's such a great indicator of our stuff, right? It's like, oh, I have some betrayal stuff going on because that's all I can think about. Mm-hmm. Or I have some I'm not good enough stuff going on because that's all I can think about. Comparing myself to someone else all day.
But ultimately why it's really getting triggered with us right now is because we do care about each other. We do love each other. And we see that the other person is valuable to us. And we're moving into super intimate material with each other. Like that's, when you start a relationship, it's like, woohoo, it's all fun and games and everything. And then all of a sudden you have to make a decision of, do you offer the person a drawer at your house or do you not offer the drawer? Can they keep a toothbrush? Can they not? All of a sudden the rules have to start coming in because the boundaries have to start being drawn, right?
Absolutely.
And so as we set the boundaries, which him and I are really working on, that's where stuff gets triggered because one person's boundary might not look anything like the other person's boundary.
And not for the reason you think.
Right.
That's what we're still addressing here is that we make stuff up. Constantly.
I make shit up.
She makes shit up. I make stuff up. Oh my God, Krista. Fuck the rules. But it's actually what our brain does. I'm going to tell an interesting fun fact. You ready?
I'm ready.
So our brains are programmed for survival. And survival means you have to look for the problem.
Say that again. Hold on.
Survival. In order to survive, you always have to be looking for the problem. You're scanning your environment for the problem. So as soon as you see it, you can fix it so you don't die. Oh, look, there's a big black bear coming towards me. Fix this, right? Like get out of the way or run or fight or do whatever you have to do. So our brains were actually created to keep us safe by seeing the problem. Mm-hmm. The current problem, however, is that our brains identify problems more than we need to see. They're not even there. And that is the constant thing that's happening with the brain that's different from what we want our mind to be doing, which is seeing the possibility in every moment. Oh, a brown bear. I wonder how quietly and how peacefully I could be in this moment to be safe, like whatever it is, instead of having this huge reaction. So the interesting thing is when we surrender to knowing that our brains are going to be looking for the problem, then we can actually just say, brain, would you please show me what's really good in this moment?
And that's what he's really good at, because that's what his work involves, not looking for the problem, but dropping into, and I don't even know if I'll describe this right, but like going into the subconscious mind and programming it to think otherwise, to think differently. Because if we're constantly looking for the problem, then what the energy we're putting forward is problems.
Right.
Instead of looking for the happiness. So that's why he's always saying to me, can you allow yourself to be happy?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a mantra of his that I love because I'm working with it. And obviously I haven't always been willing to be happy.
Yeah, there's a man in my life who really got so extreme in the problem department and so triggered. And this can happen with first responders. It can happen with military. It can happen with people who've been employed by the CIA and things like that, because their job is to look for the problem. And then it can get overactivated in their brains to the point that they cannot relate to life with anything but anxiety. And they're stoic and they're tight, and every interaction with them is what's about to happen. So they're always 20 steps ahead of everything.
That's what I feel like I do.
Well,
I mean, I might not have been in the military, but I feel that about myself, being like Capricorn and about the business and the plan and the rules. And that's why the song's so funny, because as a Capricorn, it's like, I am such a rule follower. Yeah. And there is this part of me that needs to break that loose a little bit. I mean, I still want to follow most of the rules, but I want to rewrite some of the rules.
She's pretty cute. Still want to follow. She's got her pink headphones on it.
Yeah.
So still want to follow by the rules. That is very cute.
Yeah.
But I really know what you're saying. One of my closest male friends in the last, I would say, 20 years, his nickname for me is the rule follower. And
really?
It has really loosened up for me because, as you might be able to tell, the more I see the possibility of possibility instead of the possibility of a problem, which has been a thing that I've been engaged in my brain for years now, the more I see that, the actual more my life is opening up. The more what I'm looking into my future with is imagination, is like, wow, I could actually see where I want to live, who I want to be in that with, what I want my life to feel like. Let all
conscious
that
creation.
Absolutely. Conscious creation, because I'm the creation field with the big universal field. So I get to be in this, but it's funny when you just said that, I was like, oh my God, I'm that person, but I'm not her so much anymore. Wow. The rule book was the only way I could stay safe. Like, it was an approval thing.
Right.
If I follow the rules, then people will approve of me or appreciate me or help me or not.
And think of our parents. Like, they were such rule followers, and now they're finding out that it didn't work out that way. It didn't keep them safe. Or it's bullshit. But there has to be a happy medium, too. Yeah. And I think that's what I think my last two boyfriends have been the opposite of the rule followers, much more relaxed and schedule and time and all that stuff. And it really pointed out to me how anal I am with my schedule, and here's the rules and here's how it has to go. So I did see the need to loosen a little bit, but I also see the need for some compliance, at least with the people that I'm going to be with, because that floaty stuff just doesn't feel safe to me.
Well, I think it's great. I think that, finding our way on that continuum and the balance that we are, like you and I. So seriously, if Krista didn't bring us back to the topic, often I would just go wandering down the road, like the dirt road of life. And it might be interesting, it might not. But Krista's like, well, we got a topic, girl. And she circles me back around. So in this arrangement, it works well because I respect and I appreciate that part of you keeps things in line and keeps things really moving. And hopefully there's something to respect.
Yeah, and I need to appreciate that side of myself.
Yeah.
And because I know my partner appreciates that, even though he's not necessarily that, obviously, because he wouldn't have missed the deadline, right? There's no way a Capricorn's going to miss a deadline on anything. They're going to have like 20 reminders in their phone, and they're going to have read the rules like 50 times. We both have a little bit to learn about each other in that way.
Such a nice compliment for each other, you guys are. And of course, that's why you're going to interpret things differently.
And hopefully our next episode will not be about our breakup. So I don't want to look for that problem in the future, but I do want to kind of wrap up with I I don't know, maybe you can give me some pointers of something that, like if you were processing me in a session and knowing that I'm going to be going into a difficult conversation, probably in the next hour or so, of like weeding through whatever happened. If I were your client, how would you prepare me to look at, I don't want to say look at what happened, because we know it's not even about that.
Tell you.
Oh, okay.
I'm
You're
ready
quick.
to tell you.
Okay.
Tell me. We've been doing this a long time, sister. What I can see is that even from the words that you used as you were approaching the conversation about asking me what I would say, was approaching a difficult conversation is where I would start with you. It's like we're going to move ourselves out of the context of a difficult conversation into the context of possibility. What would you actually like to see? How would you actually like to be yourself? And for a moment, just sit with that. Who do you want to be in this conversation? How do you want to be? What's your best self? What do you need between now and then to prepare yourself that you're the most available? Do you need half an hour to yourself? Do you need a bath? Do you need a walk? Do you need some dinner? What is it that you need so that when you walk in that room, you are so full that you have overflow. So when little tweaky things happen, you're not going to go, wah! You're going to go,
yeah. Well, I know him and I are both very, very sensitive beings, and that's why we are good at what we do. But when it comes into dealing with a relationship, it makes it really tricky because it's like two sensitive flowers, like trying to talk. And I have created the wall to survive in my life, meaning like because I'm so sensitive as a child and growing up, I created this tough exterior to be able to power through it all. And that's part of my journey in the last 5-10 years has been to soften that wall and allow myself to feel these uncomfortable feelings. But I notice with him, I don't necessarily give him the care and the loving, gentle words. I'm kind of like, okay, so this is what we got to do. Like,
this is what happened.
Yeah, like how I would talk to you in a way. And it's like he needs a more gentle approach from me so that he can hear me. And so my intention...
That's so sensitive of you. It's very sweet.
Well, I haven't been able to do it yet.
No, but you were talking about being aware that he needs that. Already, she's not in her own experience. Krista's now with him in creating something else. So you've already put yourself in with him. It's beautiful.
I know will be willing to work through this much more easily if I can be sweet, be compassionate, be gentle, say some of the positive things first before dropping into, hey, can we shift this? And I'm aware of certain feelings today that I didn't know he had. Like yesterday, I didn't know something. Today, I know a feeling he's having. And that's like, whoa, I so wasn't aware of that. Now, how can I work with him to not run away from it? Because I know that my pattern, and I'm seeing that his pattern too, is whenever things get sensitive, it's easier just to walk out of the room or hide or walk away from it. And it's like, no, those are the moments where we have to step gently in, not pull back forcefully.
Right. And intimacy is scary. Let's be real. That is why we all struggle with a relationship, because taking off the mask and actually being ourselves and saying, this is who I am. And this scares me. This hurts me. This is weird for me.
Yeah.
Are you still going to love me? Maybe, maybe not. But am I still going to love me? So the most powerful thing, Krista, is for you to go in there in your biggest part of yourself, the most loving, and really see him. The beauty of your spiritual connection, as we all know, and as you know very deeply, is reiterated 1,000,000 times in the Course in Miracles. All you need to do is be sourced in the right field, to be sourced from your source, from the God, from the universe, from infinite intelligence, whatever you call it, the space where you can breathe. Mm-hmm. And you show up, and it all speaks right through you. Your heart's open. It does the loving. It does the healing.
Well, then that's my intention. That's what I want to do, because
there we go. We're sending her off with an intention today.
Yeah, and it's spiritual prep, right? It's this moment of, yes, there's this. Okay, we're not going to say there's this possibility that's awaiting for me.
It's a possibility to be more loving than maybe you've ever been able to do,
and it's an opportunity for me to soften another piece of the wall. That's my lesson in it. I don't know what his lesson is yet.
Do you have a visual on that? Can you see how you would can you see it? Or do you want to play with that image?
I'll have to think about it. I'm not a visual person.
I'm
auditory.
I've got visuals all over the place. I'm a visual person. So we're going to leave Krista with that today, and we'll find out more about that later. But very brave and very intimate with us today. Krista, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very loving. And I think we got to experience you in a different way than the rule maker and the rule follower and the
fuck the rules.
And the wall and the fuck the rules and all of the things that are surprising about
thank you.
Yeah, all right. Lots of love to you, honey. And to all of you, check it out. See what's happening and see if you're making up stories in your lives.
All right.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Love you.
We want to connect with all you lovers of sex, spirituality, and all things holy. But unfortunately, you've got to make the first move, baby. That means heading over to holyfuckpodcast.com to find our new episodes and all the juicy deets about Katherine and Krista. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Holy Fuck Podcast to get up-to-date info on our new episodes and current happenings. And if you are seeking a more one-on-one experience, check out Katherine's offerings at katherinemclellan.com and visit Krista Kim Coaching to see what's shaking in Krista's world. Your spiritual evolution will thank you.